So in this section, we have completed our user registration, and then after that we did our user sign in, and we have seen our field validation, and then after that we did our encryption and decryption before saving the data to the database, and while loading the data we have to decrypt our password. Okay, and then after that we have implemented our JWT authentication, and now in the next section we are going to see our CRUD operation for author and book. Okay, and then after that we will see error handling, and then after that we will implement our home contact, and finally we are going to do the build and deployment. Okay, so now let's start. So here in our author route we are going to create the author, and then after that we will try to view the author, and further we will update the author, and eventually we are going to delete the author. So now let's start with the author route first. So first of all, let's go to our author routes. So here in our inside author route, here let's create a one more route for view author. Here we are going to display our entire list of authors, and that would be the by default our index page for the author route. So now let's view authors. Okay, as of now I'm just going to comment this because our default route would be view authors. Okay, now let's implement this view author. Now let's comment this first and implement this view authors. So go to our author controller. Here we would be creating one more method as a view authors. Okay, view authors, and in this view author let's render our index page. Okay, so here response dot render, and we have to render our author index. Okay, so here we will give our author and then we will give index. Okay, now let's create this index template. So go to our view. Inside the view, let me create another folder here for author, and inside the author let's create another file over here, index.ejs. Okay, let's close the other files here, close others, and let's close this. Okay, now let's create a form here. Now I'm going to use the author template here. Here I have taken a form action as an author, method as a get, and here I have given a div here as a search header, and then form row. Inside this row I have given a label as a author name, and then I have given an input box that is required for the search, and then after that I have given a submit button, and that button is for search, and here I have given the icon for that particular search button, and then after that I have given another button here for add author, and this add author is going to be a author new. Okay, now let's add the CDN link for bootstrap icon. So go to the layout, and in layout.ejs here we have bootstrap. Now let's add it over here before our style.css. I'll give this link into the description. You can add it from there, or you can get it from its official website. So now let's see how our author default route is working. Login, login, and go to the authors. So if you go to the authors, here it's going to the authors, right? But we have given the route as a author. So if you see here in our server.server file, here we have given the route as a author, right? So we will remove from our header, RCL header, we have given here authors. Okay, so we will remove authors, we will remove books as well. We are going to use the author and book. Now let's refresh this page once again, Control R. Let's increase the size of our JWT expiration time. So here in our middleware, in our user controller, here we have made as a 30 seconds. So we are going to make it as a 900 seconds for 15 minutes around. Okay, now let's save this. Yep, it's running now. Let's refresh this page and sign in. So now let's sign in and click on the authors. So if you click on the author, you are seeing a very nice text box that is being used our bootstrap design. If you see here, the search button is having the search icon, and here we have author button, add author. Okay, we will implement our search functionality, but before that let's add the authors. And if you see here, we are not having the other route as well. Okay, so we would be needing here user details. So what we will do that in our author controller, here we have to pass our user information. Okay, so what we will do here, const user equal to request.user. Request.user, we are getting the user information. Okay, we have already did it, right? So here we are going to give request as any. Okay, now we have to pass this user information to our template. So here we have to pass second parameter as our data. So here we are going to pass as a user and user detail. Okay, and next thing, we have to add our verified token to all the routes. Okay, So in order to add that, let's go to the server.ts file here, and here we can add our verified token, okay, for all the routes. Verified token, okay. So if you see, verified token is imported from our middleware. And if you see here, earlier we have implemented our index route. We have added verified token over here. We can add it in a both way because it's going to be implemented inside our route only. If you want to implement for all the routes, then we have to implement in our routes where we are using, okay. So here I'm going to, this is our index router. So here I'm going to use, we can use in our book as well. So this is going to implement verified token for all of the routes, okay. So all these three routers are using verified token, but we are not using in user router, okay. So we will move it on top because in user router we are using only sign in and sign out functionality and register functionality. So we are not requiring verified token there. Now let's save it. Let's check if it's running properly. Sign in. So it's not running. Let's see. Yep, still it's, yep. Sign in. Now go to the author link. So if you go to the author link, you will see that all the routes are showing over here, okay. So now we are going to implement the add author functionality. In order to do that, let me add a new template page over here. Go to our author folder, add a new page over here, new.js. This is going to be used to add a new author, okay. Here I'm going to use the template as HTML. So here I have given as an add author as a header, and then I'm using a text box to just provide the author name, and here I have given field name as a name, and this is the required field. And the second field that I have used it email, and which is also a required. And here I have done for the invalid feedback for our validation, and here I have a link to close, and here I have a button for the submission to save the author, okay. Now let's add this link to our index page. So if you see here in our index page, we have already given the link for the author new, okay. Now let's save it, and once we are going to click on author new page, then we have to render our new.js template. So we will go to the author controller, and here we are going to create a new method as a new author, okay. I'll just put it as a new author, and here I'm going to render our new page, okay, author new. And inside that we are passing our user as well as we will pass our author information, okay. As of now, this is the new author, so it's not going to have any author details. So I'll just pass the author object here. Let's import this our author. So here import author from, we are using the models, and then we are using the author, right? I hope this should be working fine. Let's see. Refresh this page. Control R. So it's logged out, okay. So now let me sign in once again. Go to author and add author, okay. So it's not redirecting to the author new, okay. This is why, because we have not added this author new author to our author route, okay. So here we have to add our new author here, new author, and this should be author new, okay. Author is our root route, author is our root, so we have to just give a new here, new author. Now let's see. Let's refresh this page. I hope running. Still it's running. Let's wait for that. Let's refresh this. Now we are seeing the add author page, okay. Go to the author. Now click on add author button. As soon as we click on the add author button, we are seeing the here name and email to add the author detail, okay. Once we click on the save button, if you see here we are seeing the validation as well, okay. Now once we click on the save button, the data needs to be stored to our database, right? So in that case, we have to implement our save author, okay. So now go to our author controller. Here we have save author, okay. So now let's make it up. And inside our save author, let's delete this line. So we are going to get the value from the request body, okay. So now let's destructure our request body. So const, I'll be using as a name and email, okay. Name and email that is coming from request body, okay. Now we are going to create an object from author, const author equal to new author, and in this new author we are going to pass this name and email, okay. So here we are going to pass as a name and email, right? and then after that we are going to save the author. Okay, so in order to save, we have to just write await, and then we have to use the author.save. Okay, whenever you are saving, updating, or loading the data from the database, then it should be async or await, because it's returning a promise. Okay, so here we have to use the, if we are using await, then we have to use async. Okay, now it's saved, and this is going to return a author. Okay, so const new author equal to await.save. Okay, this should be async, so it's misspelled. And now let's log our request body so we can get to know what the value we are sending it from the browser. So console.log and request body. Okay, now once we save the author, we will write what the author is being saved to the database. So we will log this one as well, console.log, and we'll log this new author. Okay, now let's save it. So our server is not ready as of now. Yep. Now let's see, refresh this page, and now go to the add author. Now let's add the author. I'm just going to give as a author1, and here I'm going to give as an email ID as author1@gmail.com. Okay, now let's save it. Once it's saved, then we can check. If you see here, so if you see here author1, that author name and email that we are getting from our request body, and once our data is getting saved successfully to the database, then it return the saved author. Okay, so we have logged both of the value, so it's working now. Now let me see into the database. Let's refresh this. So if you see here in the author route, in the author collection, here we are seeing the name as the author. Okay, we are not seeing the email is being stored. Okay, so now let's see our author model. So here we have our author model, and inside our author model we have given only name, so we have not given the email ID. So let's give the email ID as well over here. So I'll just copy these things entirely. Name, control A, control K, F, and email. Okay, so this would be the email, and this would be the string, and required field as a true. So now it should be working fine. Now let me store the value once again. Let's get our server ready. So now our server is ready. Now let's refresh this page, log in, and go to the author, add author. Now let's add author2, and author2@gmail.com. Okay, now save it. It's successfully saved. Let's see. So if you see here author2 and email, and here if you see here author name and email, both are saved into the database. Okay, now once our author is saved to the database, then we have to show all the list of author to our author index page. Okay, so now let's go to the author index page. Here I'm going to use the template for the table. So here basically I have used a div. Inside div I have taken a table over here. Inside the table I have given a tr, and in this tr we are taking as a header name as a author name, email, and action. Okay, and then inside the table body I'm looping the list of all the authors that we are going to get from the database, and then we are showing the data as a name, email, and then we are showing the action. Okay, the action that we are going to use, as the first action will be view, and second action will be edit, and third action will be delete. Okay, so now we are going to fetch the data from the database with list of all the authors. Okay, so now go to our author controller. So here in our view authors, let's implement the search functionality as well, because when we are loading the list of all the authors, we have to pass the search filter as well. Okay, whenever we want to load the entire data, we will pass the search filter as a blank, but yes, whenever we want to implement the search functionality, we'll pass the search parameter. So now let's add the search parameter over here. So here I'm going to use the let search option, that would be type of any, and we are going to pass it as a blank. Okay, now we'll take our value, search parameter value. So we are going to give const and as a pattern, and then we will give it as a type as a any, and here we are going to get the value request.query.name. Okay, and if you don't get the value from the request.query.name, then we are going to use from request.param.name. Okay, now here we have defined our pattern. Now we will check if we are getting the pattern value or not. So here we will give if condition, and if we have the value inside the pattern, then we are going to pass this pattern to our search options. Okay, Now, so we are going to give the search option dot name, that equal to, we are going to pass our new regular expression, and inside that we are going to pass our pattern. So we have used the pattern, and then we are going to give the flag as I. Okay, I means it's a case insensitive. Okay, now once we have bind the name property to the search option, then after that we have to load the data from the database. Okay, so now let's get it loaded from the database. Const authors any type equal to, and we have to use the await. Okay, await author dot find. Okay, and inside that we have to give our search option, and whenever we are using await, we have to use async. Okay, now here we would be getting our author detail. Now this author detail needs to be rendered inside our index. Okay, so this needs to be passed our as a parameter inside our template. Okay, so here we are going to pass as author, and here I will give authors. So this author is going to be passed inside this template. Okay, now you would be able to see the data for the authors as well. And here on the save functionality, once our data is being saved, then we have to render our index page. Okay, so here what we are going to do, because this rendering is required for our most of the methods, so what we are going to do, we are going to create a method over here, and we will copy the entire functionality from here, and we will give as a render author. So this method will be private because we are not going to use it publicly. So here we will give as a private static, and this method would be as a name as a render author, and inside that we are going to pass request and response. Request would be type of any, and response that we are also going to take as any. Okay, now inside this we are going to paste this all this functionality, and we are using await, so before that we have to use our async. Now we can call this render author over here in our view author, and we can pass our request response inside this function, and here we can use this. Okay, because we are using a static function. Now the same functionality we need to implement in our save method. Once it's saved, then we have to be search and redirect to the index page, because in this case we are not going to have any search parameter, because that would be the blank, then it's not going to find any value, so it's going to be pass it as a blank value. Okay, so it's going to find the list of all the records for the authors. Okay, so we are going to use this dot render request response over here. Now let's save it. Now server is ready. Let's go to the browser, sign in, and go to the authors. So if you see here, we are seeing here as a author name, email, and action. Okay, we are not seeing the author details over here so far. Now let's see why we are not seeing the author details. So now let's log the value over here for authors and see what value we are getting inside the authors. So console.log and authors. Okay, now let's save it. Yeah, now our server is ready. So let's go and click on author. So as soon as we click on author, we should be getting the value. So here, if you see here, we are not getting any value from the database for the authors. So now let's see if we have the value for the author or not. So this is our author database. Yep, we have the value inside our author collections. Okay, so it should be loading. Author.find. And here we are passing the search option. As of now we are passing search option as a blank, so it should load the values. Okay, now let's remove the search option for now, save it. Now our server is ready. Let's see, refresh this. Okay, so now here we are getting the author 1 and author 2, both of the author value that we are getting over here. Okay, now let's see into the database. We were seeing only one record. Why? Might be it was not refreshed, so let me refresh it. Yep, here we are seeing both of the records. Now let's see what the issues with the search parameter. So here we have search option. Okay, go to our index page. Basically here we are not passing the search option in the value, so let me pass the value here, and inside that percentile, and we have to give as a equal. That is the syntax that we have to write, and search option dot name. Okay, and this search option name needs to be passed to our this template. So what we will do in our author route here, we will pass our search option value as well. So here we are going to pass our search option, and that would be our request query. Okay, request on query. Now let's save it. Now our server is running. Now let's go and see. Yep, so now we are able to see our author details. So here actually, first of all, in our first record we were not storing our email, so that's the reason here email is not being stored. But here now we can see our author detail and author name and email address. Okay, now here we are having the 3 action. The first action is for view, and second one action is for edit the author, and third action for the delete the author. Okay, so now we will implement it. Let me add one more author over here. Let's add one more author, author 3, and give the ID, email ID as author3@gmail.com. As soon as it gets saved, it redirected to our author page. Okay, now let's see if our search functionality is working or not. So we are just going to give 1 and let's search it. Now let's search it. So search functionality is not working. Now let's go back to our author controller. So if you see here, we are logging our authors. So in our find query, yes. So in our find query, we are not passing the search option. Okay. So we have to pass this our search option inside this find method. Okay. Now I hope it should be working. Server is not ready yet. Now our server is ready. Yep. So our search functionality is working fine. Now if you see here, to search, so we are getting the author 2 here. Okay. Now let me remove this and search it. So it's not searching all the records. Okay, let's see why. Now let's log here what the value we are getting inside the search option. Now our server is ready. Now let's search. It's logged out. Let me log in once again. Go to the author, and now here search. So it's not working at the first time, but if we give as 1, so it's working. Now let's remove this and click on search and see what the value we are getting inside that. So we are getting as a name 1i. Okay, so this is 1 that we are getting. So basically here we are not getting any value, so we can pass it as a blank. Let's try with the blank value. Now server is running. Let's see, search. Yeah, so now we are getting all the values. Let's see, 1, yep, 1, 2, we are getting 2, we are 3, we are getting 3, and now let's remove and search it. So we should be receiving all the values. So now it's working as expected here, because we are passing our request query and we are not getting the value from the parameters. Okay, so now from authors, our search functionality is working, as well as our add author functionality is working, and we are seeing the list of all the authors as well. Okay, now we are going to work on view author functionality. So for the view author functionality, once user is going to click on the view, so that specific author is going to be displayed in a separate page. Okay, so now let's create a template inside our author as a view.ejs. Inside view.ejs, I'm just going to use the template. I'm going to use the template as like this. Here I have taken a form. Inside that form, I have taken a view author as a header, and then after that I'm only showing in the h3 tag as a author name and author email. Okay, and then after that I have a button over here, anchor button, as a close and as a edit. Okay, so from here also that user can go to the edit and close. Okay, so now let's create the view author inside our author controller. So here we have view authors. Here we are required to load the template for the view author. So now let me create one more method over here as a view author, and this is going to render our author page, view author page. This needs to be view, and inside this view we are going to pass the author. Okay, so author, and this author that we have to find it out from the database. Okay, so now let's get the value. So this user information we will get from the request, and now we need for this author. Okay, in order to load the author, we are going to use const author. Let's take it as a type any equal to, and we are going to use await, right, because we are going to fetch the data from the database. Await, and then we are going to author dot find by id. Okay, so in case of we want to find anything from the database, we are using find by id. So from the find by ID, we are going to pass the ID over here. So we are using request.params.id. Okay. Now we should be getting our author over here. We are passing author, and already we are passing the user details to the author view. Okay. Now let's add this author view to our author route. Here we are going to give as a view, and this ID that we are passing as a parameters over here. Okay, that we will get in our request params. Now it should be working. Now let me go back to our browser. Let's first get it our server executed. Now our server is running. Now let's go to the browser, author, and here if we click on the view, so it should goes to our view author page. Okay, so here we are seeing the author name, but we are not seeing the author email because in this view author we are not having the email ID. Okay, so now let's close it. Once we close it, it should goes back to our index page. Okay, now let's click on this. So now here we are seeing the author, and we are seeing the author email as well. Okay, now let's close it. So it should return to our index page. Now our view author functionality is working as expected. Now we have to work on the edit author. Okay, once this edit author is going to be work, then this edit author also is going to be work as expected. Okay, so now let's work on the edit author. So now I'm going to, in our author folder, here I'm going to create a new template, or we can just use this new, and I'm just going to give a name as a edit. Okay, edit.ejs. Inside this edit.ejs, we are going to give as a update author, and here we should be passing our ID because now we are required to load the author data as well. Okay, so here we have to pass our author ID here from author.id. Okay, and this all would be same, and here we have to make it as a update. Okay, because once we are going to submit this, we have to pass our author ID here as well. So looks everything is good. Now let's add this edit route to our author controller. So here it would be same like our view author. So I'm just going to copy of it, and I'll make it as a edit. Okay, and this edit is going to be render as a edit template. Okay, and we are passing as a author and view user the same information. Okay, so now it should be edit. Okay, now this edit author needs to be added inside our author route. Okay, so now here we have to add our edit route, edit author. It would be same like as our view author. So here we are going to pass as a edit author, and here we have to pass the additional parameter as a edit. Okay, so that's the, on the basis of this, it's going to recognize this is edit template that we have to load. Okay, now let's see, our server is still, so now our server is up and running. Let's see, let's refresh this. Now let's sign in, go to the author, and here we have author. Now let's click on the edit. So here we are not able to get the data from the author. Okay, so now let's see. Now here inside our edit template, here we should load the value, right? So here we are going to use the value equal to, here we have to pass author value, right? Author.name, and similarly we have to pass over here author.email. Here we are missing percentile sign. Hopefully this should be working. Now let's save it. Now let's see if it's running. Refresh. Yeah, so we are getting the author name, but we are not getting the author email. So let's see, author email is there, right? Email, right? So everything looks good. We are getting here the email information from the database, so it's not binding to the template. So what could be the issue here? Inside the value we are passing author, that's correct. Author email, right? Save it, refresh. Now let's go to the edit. So it's not working email. Why? Oh yeah, here if you see, we are passing the value as a blank, so it's getting overridden with the blank value. Now hopefully it should be working. Now let's refresh it. Yeah, now we are getting the data. So now if we see here, click on the edit, we are getting author 2, and if we click on the edit, we are getting the author 3 as well. Okay, so if we click on the view button, it goes to the view page, and if we click on the edit button, then it goes to the edit page. Okay, from here view also, if you want to click on edit, so it goes to the edit, so we will implement it. Now we are going to implement the edit functionality. Okay, so here we have just render the view, edit view. We have not implemented this update functionality. So now we are going to update this author. Okay, so now here I'll make it as a updated, and this value needs to be stored to the database. So now let's go back to our author controller. Here in our author controller, we have to first, so here already we are having the update author. Okay, so now let's copy it, let's make it after save. Okay, now let's remove this line, and once we are trying to update it, first of all we have to load the author. Okay, so in order to load the author, first of all we have to find the author. So let's get this value from here. So now here we are going to load the author value. Here it should be a sync. Here request.user, so let's give as a any. This await needs to be working. Yeah, now in this author we are fetching the data from the database. Okay, now this author value needs to be updated. So what we are going to do, this author dot name, and in that we are going to pass our request.body.name. Okay, and the second we are going to pass as a email. Okay, so here we are passing as a email, request.body.email, and then finally we are going to save our author data. Okay, so we have to use our await, because we are going to update the value into the database. Await author dot, we have to use the same function as a save. Okay, and now once our author is getting saved, we have to redirect to our index page. So in order to redirect our index page, we have already written as a function to render author. So this is directly going to redirect to the index page. This author.save is not working. Why? Because here we have given author, so it should be, because we are going to save this object. Okay, so it should be working now. So now let's see, and we have to update this update author route into our author route. So here we have our author route and update author, and it would be, for now let me give as a post, because if you see here in our edit, here we are giving action as a post. Okay, put and delete both are not being supported with the browser, so we have to use a different methodology for that. That is method overriding that I will show you in our delete case. But yes, as of now we are just using as a post here. And now let's go back to our browser. Here click on author, and let's edit this, because we have not email functionality given over here. So I'll give author1@gmail.com. let's update it. It's getting updated and it's rendered to our index page as well. So our edit view functionality is working as expected, and our edit functionality also is working as expected. Here I'll give name as updated, and email also I'll give as updated. Okay, now let's save it. So if you see here, author name also getting updated and our email is also getting updated. Now if you see in our view functionality, now if you see here in our view, so this edit functionality is not working, because once user click on the edit, then it should come to our edit page. Okay, so now let's implement that in our view author. So if you go to our view template here, so once user click on the edit, so it should goes to our edit. So basically here we are not passing edit here, so it's not recognizing that route. Now let's see, if we refresh this page and we click on edit, so it should goes to our update page. Okay, now here we can update our route, update our author over here. So now let's do update, and now it should goes to our index page. So far we have done our view functionality is working as expected and edit functionality working as expected. Okay, now we are going to implement our delete functionality for author. Okay, now we will implement the delete functionality for author. Now let's go back to the application. Let's close all the files and let's close this terminal as well. Now go to our index.js file. So as of now, this delete route is a get route. So we have to make it as a post, and we have to override our post method to the delete method. Okay. Now let's see how to do that. So here I'm going to take a form because we have to submit the form, and inside this form I'm going to give as a method as a post, and action would be passing the whole as a delete. So in this, we are not required to pass the delete. We will just pass the author and then author ID, and then after that we have to override the method. Okay. So how you have to override the method, I'm just going to take as a method. I'll tell you how later on why we are using this method. Equal to, we have to give the put. Okay. So this post method is going to be overridden with the put method, and in order to do that we have to install our method override module as well. So now let's install our method override module in the terminal. Here npm install method override. So method override module is getting installed, and now let's install its types as well because we are using TypeScript, so we have to install its types as well. Meanwhile it's getting installed, let's go to our server.ts file. Here we have to configure our method override. So if you see here, method override types also installed here. Now here we will use import method override from method override. Okay. Now we have to configure this method override. So let's configure somewhere here app.use method override, and inside this method override we have to give our overridden method name. Okay. So here I'm going to give as a method. Okay. And this is the same method that we are using here in our index file. If you see here, I have given underscore method. Okay. So whatever the name that we are going to configure in method override, we have to use the same method name over here. Now this is not going to work, so we have to submit JavaScript. Let's find the form. So let's give some ID for this form. ID give as a form action. Okay. So let's find out this action form over here. jQuery $sign with, I'll give here because we are using the ID, so we are going to use the form action ID. Okay, has, and then after that we have to submit the form. Okay. As soon as we are going to click on this button, it's going to submit with the post, but we are going to change the method as a, here we are going to use the method as a delete. We are, because put is being used for the update and delete is being used for the delete. Okay. So here we are going to use the method as delete. Now this is going to be submitted. Now let's go to our author controller. Here in our author controller, let's write the method for delete here. We should be having delete author. Yeah. So here we have the delete author. Now remove this line, and here first of all we have to find out the ID. Okay. So just give us a cons ID equal to, and that we are getting from request.params. Okay. So we will use the request.params.id. Okay. And then this ID, we are the same ID that we are going to delete from the database. Okay. So now here we are going to use const author equal await, because now I'm going to delete the data from the database. So if you are using await, then we have to use the async as well, and here await, and we have to use author dot find one and delete. Okay. So author dot find one and delete. Okay. Find one and delete. Yeah, here, and here we have to pass our ID. Okay. So we are going to pass the ID as ID here. Okay. So same ID is going to be deleted from the database, and once the data is being deleted, and this needs to be enclosed with the curly bracket. Okay. Because we are passing the object here. Now once the data is getting deleted, it should be redirect to our index page. So we have to simply call this method here, render author. That's it. Now let's go to our author route. Here we have a delete author, right? So inside our delete author, we are just sending the ID, and this method is delete only. So what exactly is going to be happen? We are passing method as a post, but it's going to be override with the delete method. Okay. So now let's test it. Let's create another terminal over here. Let's start the server, nodemon src server.ts. Okay. Now our server is up and running. So go to the application here, I'll just try to log in once again and go to the author, and here once we try to, let's delete the author 3. Okay, so once we delete the author, it's getting deleted from the database. Okay, now let's see if it's being deleted from the database or not. So here let's browse the collection, management and author. So if you see here, we are having author 2 and author 3. Basically it's deleted the author 1. Why? Because of that there could be a issue that here inside our index page we have given a form over here, right? So what exactly happening inside this each loop, it's going to generate the 3 forms and it's getting submitted with the only the first form. So once we click on this submit button, then our first form action, because like there are multiple forms generated on the page with the ID form action, right? So it's getting submitted the first form. Now let me give ID over here. Each and every form we are having their own ID. So I'll give the author ID here, and the same author ID I would be getting here once we are finding the form. Okay, so now it should be okay. Let me save it. Now let's go back to our application. So here let me add one more author here as author 1 at gmail.com. Okay, so now here we have author 1, author 2, author 3. Okay, so now let me delete the author 3 for now. So author 3 gets deleted. Okay, so now it's working fine. And now if we edit the author 2, so it's load the data for author 2 only. So now we have done the method override for the delete method. Now let's go back to our routing file, index route. So this verified token is, so I'm just doing some code refactor. So this is not required actually here. So I'm just deleting it for now. And now let's go to our author route. So here let me do some reorder. First of all, we have to add the author, then we have to view the author, then we have to edit the author. So here edit we are not using this edit actually, so we have to remove it. And then we are using the post. So this is my post method to save the author. Then we have to update the author, and finally we are using the delete. Okay, but if you want to use the put, so we can use the put over here, but in the same way that we have did for the delete, we have to do in the same way for the post method as well. Okay, now let's remove this get author over here, and now go to our author controller. In our author controller, view authors, then we are using view author, one line gap here, and edit author, then new author. Let's put new author on top. Then we have view authors, view author, edit author. Let's put this save author on top of the edit author, and then we have to use our save author, edit author, and this is our update author. Basically this is to load the template, and this is actually update that our data. Now here we have this get author is not going to be used anymore, so remove this. And here we have the delete author. Okay, and now finally we have our private method as a render author. So it's everything looks good. Now let's see once again our application. Now everything looks good. It's saving. Our server is getting ready for now. So our server is now ready. Now let's go back to our application here. Let's log in, author, and if you see here, as of now we have author 2, author 1. Now let's add one more author over here, author 3. Add author, author 3, author 3, and save it. So now we have author 1, author 2, author 3. Okay, now let's see our search functionality is working. Yes, it's working absolutely fine. Now let's add author is already working. Now let's see for the edit. Author 2 updated. Now let's remove the updated one. Save it. So here our view, edit. Now let's check with the delete. So I'm going to delete the author 2, okay, author 1. Okay, that is in the center. So our author 1 also gets deleted. So for now we have completed our search, add author functionality, view author, edit author, as well as delete author by using the method override method. Okay, now further we are going to implement our book router, and there we will try to create a book and then view book, edit book, and implement the delete book functionality. And we'll try to upload the image functionality as well. Okay. But before that, let me commit that what we have done so far. So application here, let's open a new terminal as a git bash. So currently I'm in the branch 5. So let's change the branch, git branch -m v6. Okay. Now I'm on the branch 6, git status. So we have these many files. Now git add. Let's add all these files. Now let's again check the git status. So all these files have been added. Now let's commit -m, and in this we have completed our author route and its action. Okay. Now let's git push head. We have to use git push origin head, right? Yeah. Git push origin head. Okay. Yep. So it's pushing now. So all these files have been pushed. So far we have completed our author routes. And here in our application, I have added some actual author over here. So once we are going to create the book router, then we are going to map with these authors. Now let's start creating with the book router. So first of all, here in our view folder, we are going to create another folder as a book. And inside book, we are going to create all these files. Okay. Edit, index, new, view. Copy and paste, because all those files are going to be same inside the book folder as well. Okay. Now once user click on the book route, it should goes to the index page. Okay, book index page. So now let's implement the book index page first. So this is our index page. Here we'll have all the things same as a search option, and here we are going to author new. So here we will give as a book new, and this is add book. And then after that, so here we are not going to use the table. Here we are follow the div design. So now I'm going to remove everything from the table over here. So we will remove this table. Okay. Okay. So we will implement this later on, the list of all the book. Now go and add the router for the index page in the book controller. Okay. So now here we have in the book controller. Now let's create here a view books, and here we are going to render our index page. Okay. So now response.render. And inside that we are going to render our book page, book index page. Okay. So book, that we will give index and add this view book inside our book route. So here as a default route here, view books. Okay. Now let's see if it's working or not. So here in our books, it should goes to the book. So it's giving option as a search option is not defined. Okay. So for the time being, I'm just going to remove from index page this search option. Now save it. Server is again starting now. Now server is ready. Now let's see here. Let's refresh this page. So now here we are seeing that book search author. So we are having change over here in our index page, book index page. Here we should be having search book. So here we have a search book, and then here we have book name, add book. Okay, see it once again. Yeah. So now we have option for the search book, search, and add book. Okay. Here we are not seeing the other routes because we are not passing the user information which are available in the JWT token inside the cookies. That we will implement it. So what we have to do, we just have to add in our here in our server.js file. Here we are using the verified token. Okay. So we have to pass our user information inside the our book controller here. Okay, so now let's pass the user detail here. Go to, we can take it from the author controller. Here we have request user, and we can pass it here user details. Okay, user, and here give it as any. So this is going to accept it. Okay, now it will be comma. Now let's see once again. So here if you see, for the book route as well, we are seeing all the router link over here. Okay, so that part is working now. Now let's start working on the add book functionality. Let's go to the book model. Here inside the book model, I'm going to do a small changes over here. In place of cover image, I'm just going to have cover, and we will give one more type over here, cover type. Okay, which would be the image type. So here it would be string. Now let's add this cover type to schema as well. So here it would be cover type. and it would be cover only. Okay, we will be adding cover image path over here as well, but we will do it later on once it's required. Now let's go to the book controller. Let's add the route for the new book, so we can copy it from our author controller. So here we have our new author. Yep, this is our new author. Same we are going to copy and paste in our book controller. We can mark it as a new book, and it's going to render book, and it would be new book. Let's import this book from book model. Import book from models book. Now it should be loading our book template. Now let's add this new book to our book route. We can copy it from our author route that we did same. So here router.getNew. Here same we can do router.getNew. Here we can do the book controller dot new book. Okay. Now let's add the template for the book as well inside the book new. So this is the template that we are using for author. So we are going to replace the template from the book. So I'm going to just replace this with the book template. So if you see here I have taken a header as a add book, and then I have taken a book title. After that, here we are binding the drop down list for the author selections, and here I have given the condition if author ID and book author ID is matching, then after that we are putting the selected value for that particular author. If in the else condition, we are just binding with the author. Okay, after that we have given a publish date text box for the publish date, where we have a type as a date, and after that we have given a field for the page count, and this is for the upload book cover. And if you see here, type is file, so here we are using type as a file, and after that we are using description, and finally we are having the button for our close as well as our save button. Okay, that is the type of submit. I'll be providing the reference for this project in the description link, so you can take the reference from there for all these templates. And here this template required the author data inside this template, so we have to pass our author detail inside the book controller. So let's pass that. So now here inside the new book, we are going to use const author type of any equal to, we are using the await here because we are fetching the data from the database, and it would be a promise, so we are using await and author.find, right? Let's import author as well. So here same like we have imported the book, we can import the author as well, and here it would be author model. Okay, now it should be working, and if we have used await, we must have to use async. Okay, and now this author information we have to pass inside our template. So and this is the author list, so we have to give pass here authors, and it's going to have the list of all the authors. Okay, now hopefully this should be working. Let's save it. Server is not ready yet. Yeah, server is ready. Now let's see. Let's log in once again, sign in, and go to the books and click on add new books. So here it's showing as an error, book is not defined. Okay, let's see inside our new template. So here it's saying as a book is not defined. Okay, so book dot author, expecting the book as well. Let's go to our book controller. Here we are passing author, so that's the wrong. Okay, so here we have to book because this is the book information, and we had copied from author controller, so it was a mistake. Now let's run it once again. Yep, now server is ready. Let's see, refresh this page. Yeah, so now you can see here page to add the book. Okay, now let's see if validation is working. Yep, all the validations are working fine because already we have implemented the validation at the layout page. Okay, so it's going to work for the entire application. Now here we are uploading the file. Okay, image file. So we have to take care of few things. Now let's see in our new file. If you see, whenever we are uploading any data image file to the database, we have to give this type, enc type multi-part form data. Okay, if we don't provide this, we won't be able to post our image data. Okay, and the second thing, here in our book cover, if you see, I have given type as a file. Okay, so we have to provide type as a file for our input control. Okay, now in order to upload the file, we are going to implement a module as an express file upload module. Okay, so now let's install that express file module. So here we are going to install one more module, npm install express file module. Okay, express file upload module. So it's getting installed now. So this file module is, so this express file upload module is installed. Now let's configure this module in our server.ts file. So first of all, let's import this. Import file upload from express file upload. Okay, it's not finding the module. Now let's install its types as well. So here we are going to install the types. Since we are using the TypeScript, so explicitly we have to install for the its types as well. Now we are going to configure this file upload inside our middleware. So here, let's implement it here. app.use file upload. Yep. So we are good now. This file upload. Anyway, it's fine. Now, once we provide all the data and click on the save button, all the information needs to be stored into the database. So we have to implement the save functionality in our book controller. So let's go to the book controller. Inside our book controller, here we have save book. Okay, so we are going to copy it from our author controller. Here we have save author. So we are going to copy it from save author and we will mention it here as a save author. So here let's change the method name here, save book. Let's close this terminal. In order to close, to open, Control J command. Okay, now let's see what all the values give request any here first. Yeah, we should be seeing that what is coming inside the request.body, and then after that here it would be creating a new book, and inside that book we would be having field. We have taken title, so we are going to take the field as a title, and the title that we are going to take it from request.body.title. But before that, let's see first what all the values that we are getting. So we are going to comment it for now, and the file value that we are getting into the request.files. Okay, here request.files. Now let's see, and this save book needs to be added to our book route. So here we are passing default route as a post and save book. Okay, so now let's see, save this. Yep, login it once again, book, add book, test. Here I'm selecting the one author, J.K. Rowling. Give the publish date, count as T, and let's take one of my thumbnail here. Open, and now let's save it. Okay, so once we click on save it, it's not going to save, but we are going to see the data. So if you see here in the request body, we are getting, this is the user information after logged in. Yeah, so if you see, we are getting here title, author, publish date, page count, description, and this is that we are this is the data that we are getting for the file. So this is the file data, this is the file name. I mean, like this is the complete cover detail related to the files. So name, data, size, encoding, truncated, MIME type, all these information are there. Okay, now let's implement this in our book controller. So here title, and then after that we would be having our and author request.body.author, and then we have publish date. So if you see here publish date, let me copy it quickly, publish date, and then after that we have page count, request.body.page count, and then we would be having description. Okay, request.body.description. Now we have to check this file if we are getting, let me remove this. We have to check this request.file is there or not. Request.files, if it's there, then we are going to pass the book.cover, because already we have this book, sorry, this is book and book.cover, and we have to pass this book.cover buffer from, then we have to take inside request.files as change it as any, and then we have to be, and this is request files as any, and then we have to dot cover, then we will get the data for the dot cover, and then we have data. Okay, and finally we have its encoding as a base 64, and then after that we have to pass the cover type. So book dot cover type to be T would be capital type, and then same we are going to take as a request.file as any, and from here we are going to get the cover.mem type. Okay, so now we will be having our cover and cover type detail, and then after that we have to save this book. Okay, let's save this book, const new book, and here book.save, and let's for now let's remove this render method. Now let's copy new book. Okay, so our data needs to be stored to the database. Now let's see if data is getting stored or not. Yep, server is now ready. Now let's see. Refresh this. Sign in book and add book here. Test 1. Select author Jory John. Publish date is 27th. Page count 34. Choose file is, I'm just taking one of my thumbnail here. Description test. Okay, now save it. You see here, and our data is getting stored to the database. Now let's check into the database if data is getting stored or not. So here I'm going to browse my collection. So now you can see here we are able to see our book data. So now the data is getting stored to the database. Now let's implement the functionality for the view. Now let's close this terminal. Now once book is saved, then let's redirect to our book index page. So let's redirect to our book index page here. We can use response.redirect and we can give as a book. Okay, now let's save it. Now refresh it once again. Yep, now login, book and add book. Test 2, page count 34, book chosen, description, test. Now information saved to the database and it redirected to the search book page. That is the book index page. Okay. Now further we are going to work on the index page where we are going to list out all the books inside a div. So now let's do it. Go to our book index page. Now here we are going to create a book grid template. Okay, that book grid template would be the common for our entire project. So we are going to create a book grid inside our partial. So here I'll be creating a book grid.ejs file, book grid.ejs. Okay, and in this book grid.ejs file we are going to pass the list of the books. Okay, and then after that we will do the iteration for all the book inside the books collection. Okay, so now let's see. I'm going to paste over here. I'll come to this later on this large and small part, or as of now we can remove it, so we don't have any confusion on that. Okay, now Control A, Control KF. So our page is going to be formatted, and if you see here we are checking here book.length. If it is greater than 0, then we are looping our each and every book from the books collection. Okay, and then after that here I have taken a card title box, and inside that I'm going to give image path. This image path is nothing, it's returning the data from the database for that particular image. And then after that we have book title, book description, and here we have book author name, book publish date, page count, and here we have 3 buttons: view, edit and delete. Okay, now let's save this and go to our index page, book index page. Inside this div, container div, we are going to give the reference of this our book grid file. So in order to add a reference for the file, we have to give percentile sign and then hyphen. Okay, and then we have to use the include. Okay, and inside include we have to give our file path. Okay, so here we have partials, because as of now we are in our book, so we have to go one directory up. Then after that we will be getting the partials. Okay, so here partials, and then after that we would be having bookgrid.ejs. Okay, and inside that we would be passing our books collection. Okay, so here we can write like that, same as we have written in the TypeScript. So here books, and we are passing inside the books, and once we will render this index page, we will pass this books data inside this template. Okay, and this action needs to be there as a book actually. And yeah, everything looks good now. And now we need to add the route in our book controller. Okay, for our index page. So if you see here in our view books, here we are passing our book index, right? But here we are not passing our book data. I mean, like list of the books data. So let's pass that data as well. Better to let's have a separate function as we did for the author as a render author. So similarly we can do it here as well. So I'm just going to copy this method as a render author and I'll paste it inside the book controller. Okay, here I'll give as a render book, and here we have search option as any, and here we are passing our search option request.query.name. That's fine. And here we are checking if we have our pattern then we are passing this regular expression, and then here we have to find out the books. Okay, so we have to find out the list of the books here, and then here we have to be await book dot find and pass the search option, and then after that we have to populate, because book are having the author ID, and that author ID belongs to the different author model. So we have to populate those author as well. Okay, so we have option over here dot populate, and then we have a populate author, and finally we have to execute it. Okay, like this we can execute it. Now we would be having in the book all the author details as well inside our books collection. Now let's log this book here, console.log book, and then after that we can redirect to our book page. Okay, so here we can use the response.redirect. Response.redirect is not required because already we are in the index page. So here book slash index, and here we are passing the collection of the books here. So this would be books, and then search option that we are passing request query, that's fine, and here we are passing in user information. Okay, so yep, and this render book needs to be called over here, this dot render book, and inside this render book we have to pass our request and response, because the same request and response, same context is going to be passed to the our render method. So now we are good over here. Now let's add this method to our book route. So here we have a default method as a view book, so everything looks good over here. And the other option here we have in the index page, as we have removed the search option, so we will be adding this search option to our book index page as well. So we would be able to find out the book from the book index page. Now everything looks good. Let's see if our server is ready. Yeah, our server is ready. Now let's log in it once again, sign in, and go to the book. So now here we are getting error as unexpected token catch while compiling EJS. Okay, so let's go and see what the issue with bookgrid.ejs file. So here in our bookgrid.ejs file, here we have book cover image path. So let's create this book cover image path as a virtual property in our book model. So go to the book model first. Here we have book model. Now inside our book model, so let's create a virtual over here. So book schema dot virtual. In order to create a virtual property, we can create like this, virtual, and then after that we have to give the virtual property name. So our virtual property name is cover image path. So cover image path. Okay, and then we have to be get the value. So get, and then we have to write inside a function, or we can just write a callback function inside. So function, and that is going to be returned as any, and inside this function we are going to check if we are having the value inside this dot cover and this dot cover type. So this dot cover, and we are having the value inside the this dot cover type, this dot cover type. Let's close this terminal, Control J, and if we have the value, then after that we have to return. And what we have to return, we have to return data, and then we have to data this dot cover type. First we have to give the type. So here this dot cover type, and then we have to char set is UTF-8 base 64, and once it's done, then we have to give comma, and then we have to give the actual cover data. Okay, so now we are going to pass the actual cover data. So this dot cover dot toString, and inside this we are going to take it as a base 64. Okay, encoding. So now this is the virtual property that we have from the book schema, which is going to return the book data. Now let's go back to our book grid page. Here we have book image path, so we have the property, virtual property over here. Now everything looks good. Go to the index page. So basically here we have name, so we need to replace with the value, because as of now we are going to get the value for the book name, sorry, title, and here give title. Here we can give title, because now we are passing it as a title over here. Okay, title. Now go to our controller, book controller. Here in our book controller we are passing it as a request.query.title and search option.title. Title, search option. Yep, everything looks good. Now let me save it, run it once again, Control J. Server is still getting started. Now server is up and running. Now let's go back and see once again. Refresh, go to book. Still we are getting error, so we have issues with bookgrid.ejs. Okay, let's see once again. This is our book grid page. Here we have if condition, that's okay. Here we have book, and inside we are looping this, and then we have our book card, and here we are closing this. Here we are okay. So here basically we are not closing this if condition, so that would be the issue. Yep. So now we are closing this if condition. Okay, now let's save it. Now wait for the servers to be up and running. Now here server is up and running. Now let's see, go back and book. Yeah, so here we are seeing the book search. As of now we don't have any data for the book. I have already deleted it. Couple of records that we have added because it was having a huge image size. Now I'm going to add some new book over here. So let me just add inside this image. Okay, here we have all my friends are dead, so let's add this book. All my friends are dead. Okay, and author is Jory John. Yeah, Jory John. And let's give some publish date. I'm just giving random publish date as a, and book count, page count as a 233. File selected, and here I'm kid storybook. Okay, now let's save it. As soon as we save it, it's going to be displayed in our index page, but its size is huge. I believe we have to do some changes in our bookgrid.ejs file. So now let's go to our bookgrid.ejs file here. So here we are using class book cover. Let's go to the style sheet. So here in our public we have style sheet, style.css. Now let's create a class book cover, and we are going to give some width for the image. So I'll just set it as a width 200 pixel, and then I'll give height little bit more than width. Okay, height as let's give as a 280 pixel. Okay, now save it. Let's go back and refresh it once again. Yep, we are able to see here a div, and inside the div that we are having the image, and here we are seeing the title, here we are seeing the description, here we are seeing the author name, right? And here we are seeing the publish date, and this author name is getting from the author data, right? Because we are having the author key, author ID inside our book. Okay, and here we are seeing the page count. Okay, now let me add some more book. Add book. Now I'm going to add another book as Harry Potter. So Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling. Okay, so now let's open Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling, and let me give some page count as a magical story. Okay, magic story. Now let's save it. As soon as we save, it goes to the index page. Okay, we are not seeing this div inside in a proper way, so I'll fix that. For now I'm just adding all those our books over here. So let me add one more book here Malala, and Jory John, and give some date here as a 27, page count 454, choose file, this image, and girl who stood for education killed by Taliban. Save it. As soon as we save it, we are seeing this all these three books are stored into the database. Now let's all these div in a proper way. So let's do some changes in the design. Let's go back to our classes here. In our book grid we are using the class as a title box. So let's create it, because this is the div where we are adding the entire our book details. So now let's go to the our style sheet. Here let's add title box class over here. So in this class I have given the display as flex, and maximum width I have given 500, height as a given 200, and background color is white. Margin I have given 10 pixel. So each and every div should be separated, and here I have given box shadow. Okay, now let's see how exactly it look like. Refresh it. So now if you see here, we are seeing border and gray everything, but it's not coming in a row. Now let's see. So now go to our book grid file. Here we are using the book content, and this book content is inside our section block. So if you see here in our layout, this entire div is coming inside our body, is coming inside our section. Okay, so now let's give one more class over here. Inside our class style.css file, here we are going to add the book content, book cover and book content. So here I have given flex basis as 100%, and then flex direction row display flex, and flex wrap is wrap, and justify content center. Okay, so now let's save it and see. Yep. So now if you see, now we are seeing in a flex box, and that is horizontally aligned. Okay. Now let me add some more books over here. Add book. Let's add one more book over here. So Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is written by Roland. So open Michael Jordan Roland, and I'm giving publish date as a 30th of June, and here page count, some random page count. So as soon as we save it, it goes to the index page and we are seeing this. But now still width of this particular section is not enough. So we need to be seeing all these records in a complete page. So now let's see, we have to give some property to the section as well, because this entire information is coming inside the section box. So now let's go back to our style sheet once again, and here we will give the style for the section as well. Okay, now for this section I have given width as 100%, display flex, and justify content center, and align item center. Okay, now let's save it and go back to our application, refresh it. So still it's not coming inside the full width. So now let's see once again. Here we have a container div. If you see here inside our layout section, we have this container div, and this container div having a class here. Inside our style class, container div is having 50%. Okay, so now let's give as 100%. Now refresh it. Yeah, so now it's all the divs are not coming in a row. So now let's see what is the other issue we have. So now let's open our developer tool. Here go to the, here if you see, this is a Control-Shift-C. If you want to inspect any element, click on this and then we can inspect it. So this size is 100% should be, yeah. So this is getting container. Okay, so what, so see all the class property. If you see here on the top, we are able to see left corner. And now if we go here, so here we can see it's this div container is having a width of 200 pixel. Okay, so now let's see where exactly we have given this book container 200 pixel. Now let's go back here. Now let's search Control-Shift-F 2000 pixel. So here we have 2000 pixel. Now let's remove this class, save it. Let's go back to the application and refresh it once again. It required login once again, so let's log in it. Now go to the book. Yeah, so now it looks better. So if it's going to be increased by this count, then it's going to be wrap our div. Okay, because we have taken our flex box. Now further we are going to implement our view, edit and delete functionality for this book. So far we have implemented our search functionality and add book functionality, and we are showing all the books in our index page. Okay, now let's test with search functionality. So we have not tested so far all. So it's searching the proper book. All my book friends are dead. Now let's another book, Jordan. Okay, so this is also working, and let's search another book for Malala. So it's working for Malala as well. Now remove this and search it. So it should be working for the blank field as well. So for the blank, it should load all the records. So it's working, and add book functionality is already we have seen it's working. Now we are going to further move with the view functionality. Okay, so go to our Visual Studio Code, and now let's go to our, here we have our book view.ejs file. So we have to replace this template because this is the view author that we have copied from there. Now let me replace this with the book template. Okay, book view template. So if you see here in the book view template, we have almost same thing. Here we have given book cover image path, and here the only one difference that we have given here, we have width and height is 400 and 600 pixels. So here image is going to be in a larger view, and here we have given view, book title and book description, and same all the information, author, published date, page count, everything that we are shown here as it is. and then here we have view, edit and delete functionality. Okay, so in fact view functionality is not needed over here, so I'll remove this. We are needing only edit and delete functionality from there. Okay, now this view page needs to be rendered once we click on the view link. So let's go to our book controller page, and here we should be having something like view book. Okay, so now let's go to the author controller, and here we have view author, right? So we can copy this and go to our book controller. Here we can have a view book. Okay, similarly we can implement for the book as well. Here we should be having this book, and we should find from the book, find by id, and then after that it should be returning the book, and here it should, we have to pass parameter as book over here, and here it should render the book view. Okay, here I'm not populating the author details, so I'll show you how exactly it would be. So we will be seeing only id if you are not populating the author id. Okay, now let's see how exactly it look like. So let's see if, yep, our server is up and running. Refresh, and now let's click on the all my friends are dead over here. Okay, so it should goes to the book and pass to the id. Okay, so this is happening because we have not added this view book to our book router. Okay, so we have to add this to our book router. So here we have book router. So now let's here implement for the book route. So it would be a get request, and here we are passing id, and it would be view book. Okay, and once user click on view book, then it should goes to the and render the view template. Okay, now let's save it and test it once again. So now here our server is up and running. So let's go and refresh. Now let's click on the view button. Now it's going to the view page. Okay, so if you see here image in a little bit larger size and all the details that we are seeing from the book over here. Okay, but if you see here, we are not able to see the author detail because we have not populated author id inside our book record. Okay, so now let's do that first. So here in our view book, as we earlier did, like populate, and what we have to populate author. Okay, and then we have to do execute. Okay, so now what will happen inside book, our author is going to be populated. So now let's see, go to library once again and refresh this page. As soon as we refresh, you can see here our author is populated inside our book page. Okay, now our view functionality is working. Now let's go back to our index page. Now further we want to implement edit functionality. Okay, so now let's implement the edit functionality as well. So once user click on the edit, it should load the edit page with the all the previous loaded value. Okay, so now let's go back to our book controller. Here let's copy the edit functionality from the so here we have now let's copy this update author from here and paste inside our update book. Okay, now here we need to replace this author to book, and here this book find by id and this user, so we have to replace with any. Now if we are using await, then we have to use the async, and for now I'm just going to delete this, and here it should be book.save. Finally we are going to save the book. Okay, and here we have to render our book. Now we are going to pass the value which we are getting from the request.body from our edit page. Okay, so one by one we will pass this value. So book.title, so basically already we have done similarly here. So we will copy these things from here, and so but before that we have to mention here book.title because now we are updating our book. So I'll just copy this and paste it for all the fields. Okay, it should be equal sign here, so I have replaced all the colon with the equal sign. Okay, now here it's expecting semicolon. Okay, now we have to check for the book cover and cover type as well. Okay, so if request.files is available, then after that we have to bind cover and cover type. Here what we can do, here we can check if our request.body is also available, then after that we have to bind its fields. Okay, so now here request.body is available, then only we have to do all those things. Okay, now let's control A, control KF. So this is our update book, and here we are not using this user information because directly we are rendering our book. Okay, so here we are finding the book, and then after that we are checking our request body, and then we are populating all of our book fields and then saving, and finally we are rendering it, okay, on the index page. Okay, now let's see if this update book is being added over here or not in our book route. So here we have update book, okay, and we are passing with, and this would be a put. For now I'm going to implement it as a post and save it. And now let's see in our book edit template if we are having this button as a post or not. Submit, yeah, this is a type submit button, and this is a update, and once we submit it, then it should go. Action is the book and book ID, okay, and method is post, so it should be working fine. Now let's test it. So our server is up and running. Now let's go to the library management, refresh this page. Now let's edit this. Here I'm going to mark it as updated, and let's choose the file. I'm going to use the same file here, open, and this I'm going to description also updated. Okay, now let me update it. So once it's updating, expected is to go back to our index page. If you see here, my title and descriptions both are updated over here. So our edit functionality also working. Now let's implement the delete functionality. So in order to implement the delete functionality, we are using the method override, since put and delete both are not supported by the browser. So now let's go back to our index page here, our book index page, and inside the book grid, so we have find here our delete functionality inside our book grid. So if you remember, we have already implemented our method override for delete in our view in our author functionality. So now let's get it from author index. So if you see here, we have taken a form, and inside this form that we have given a delete functionality. Okay, so now similarly we will do it over here as well. So we will take a form here, book grid, and however here form is required for this particular anchor only. Okay, so now let's copy this line from here. Okay, and we are using the form. Okay, close tag, control KF. So form action, here we are going to give the book ID, and then here it should goes for the book author ID, method is delete, and method override we are doing with the delete, and here we are having post. Okay, and now we have to submit this. Okay, so here we have to pass form action as a book ID and submit. Okay, now let's remove this. Better to have this form at the top of the all the buttons. Okay, now control KF, so it's formatted now. Now let's go back to our book controller. Here we have to implement the delete functionality. So now let's go to our author controller. We can copy the delete author, and here in our book controller similarly we can paste it, and here we are having author, so we are going to have a book, and here we are going to have book find, and here we have to use async. Okay, and await, then we are finding one and delete, and here render book. Okay, so we have added our delete functionality. Now let's see if it's being already added to our book route or not. I hope so, it's already being added. So if you see here, router.delete we are using. Okay, so here we are not using the post, here we are using the delete. However, we are submitting it as a post, but at the backend side it's going to react as a delete. Okay, request. Now let's see if it's working or not. Save it. So now our server is up and running. Now let's see, refresh this page, and let's try to delete. So it's showing as author is not defined. Okay, so yeah, here we are using author ID, which should be the book ID. Okay, so now let's go back to our book grid page. Here we are using author ID, which needs to be book ID. Okay, now let's save it. Now server is up. Let's go back. Now let's delete this Harry Potter. Yep, so Harry Potter is deleted. Okay, so if you see here, we have implemented our search functionality, add book, view, edit, and delete. All the functionality are working as expected. Okay, and if you see here, I have not implemented anywhere inside book and author route. I have not implemented any try catch block because I have to implement a centralized error handling. Okay, but if you see here in our user controller, I have given try catch block. So basically it's not a best practice to use the try catch block everywhere, so I'm going to use error handling in a centralized way. Okay, so in our next section we are going to see our error handling, and then further we are going to deploy our application. Okay, so now let's commit whatever done we have so far. So let's open another terminal, git bash. Now check git status. So we have our implemented book functionality, book route, okay. And here we have, I have added already image that what I have been used over here, and we have book and book grid, okay. So now git add all the files. Now let's check the git status once again. Now let's git commit. So as of now we are using v6 branch. Now let's change the v6 branch. So I'm going to create a new branch, git branch -m, and then I'm going to give a v7, okay. So now I'm on v7 branch. Now let's git commit, give the message, and message would be implemented book and author route, okay. Now let's push code to our repository. So git push origin head, okay. So now all the code have been pushed, okay. Now further we are going to implement our centralized error handling.